Hello Flosstube, it's Lori of MischievousStitches. Welcome to my channel today. I'm very glad that you're here visiting with me. I have several things to share with you this week. I have a work in progress, a fully finished item, and a little bit of haul. So sit back and let's get started. So when I left you last week, I was focusing on an old whip, and it's by the Bay Needlearts in my father's house. And this is the piece. I had to look it up. I did start it in Mania of 2018, which was May of 2018. And I picked it back up again in 21 and started focusing on it. I got the majority of the house done and one side of the house with the trees. Well, this week I have been working on it monogamously, and I've been getting a good bit of stitching time, and the progress really shows. So here's where I am this week. I'm so happy with the progress. So when I left you last week, I had the house, the main portion, the peachy pink color there, the house. I had the windows, the house, the outline of the roof, and part of the words there at the top, because I was in the process of removing those stitches. I had made a mistake, actually had found two. And so I got all those words back in. I was able to put all the trees on this side of the house. So these were here and I put this side. And as you can see, I had started on the yard with the sheep. Well, since I went ahead and moved over to this side, I was able to finish all of that grass that you see on that side. I did put in 3 of the sheep, everything but their little legs. I put the stonework beneath the house, the front door. I found a mistake in the door itself because I had stopped stitching the door flush with the house, the bottom of the house, right before the, I stopped where the stonework starts and the house stops with the door. And so I had to remove the front stoop and the steps and bring the door down and then add the steps back in. So that took a little bit of time, but the stonework was not there, so it was easier than it sounds. But I got a lot of progress. It was more progress than I intended. I intended when I left you to finish up the wording and the trees on the side. So when I was able to move down, complete the stonework, complete 3 of those sheep, and move into the yard, that really made me feel good. The remaining of what I have, see, is to bring the yard around. There are, you can see them faintly here, but there are flowers here on the edges of the yard, and they also go into the yard. And then there's another verse at the bottom, portion of a verse. So hopefully when you see me next week, I will be close to a completion. I'm very happy, very happy. So I've been probably putting in about 2 hours a day. That sounds like a lot, and I guess when you add it up, it really is, but I really see the progress. A lot of that I think is due to, this is, I think it's barley, 36 count, was it wild barley? Something another barley is the fabric. It drapes really well, which for me makes it easy for me to stitch in hand. So I have been stitching in hand on this. I'm stitching it on that 36 count with 1 strand of thread over 2 linen threads, and I'm using the sewing method. And when I use the sewing method, I do get a lot more progress than I would otherwise if I was stitching in a hoop or a Q-snap, or you know, what we call the poke and stab method. If I'm using that, I do stitch a little slower. But overall, I'm very happy with this progress. So I want to share with you something else. I left you in the last video saying that I wanted to fully finish my grandson's cottage garden samplings, I believe it is, the bear. And I did. He's fully finished. I actually did it this morning. So here he is. I'm getting a glare, but he's so handsome in this frame. So So I bought the frame at Hobby Lobby last week, and it was lighter than this. It was more just a weathered wood, a natural weathered wood, and they had place paints and white paint. Let's see if you can see it. There's some here in particular portions, mainly the edges and this inner edge, to kind of antique it and weather it a little more. And when I brought it home, I took the piece with me to Hobby Lobby looking for the perfect frame, and I would pop the back off of the frame, a few frames, and the glass, and lay it over him to find the perfect one, and this is the one I ended up with. But when I got it home, I still wasn't 100% with it. So what I did this morning is I took the glass out, cleaned it good, and took this frame and took just a lightweight sandpaper and went over the whole thing, the edges, so there's more of that paint there. The whole thing, the edges and everything. This paint was really bright white, and so it just stood out too much. So I did the inner edge, just basically everything but the inner portion where you place the glass has been sanded. And after sanding it and then cleaning the wood from the powder from that sanding, I waxed and stained it with brie wax. Now, if you've not used brie wax, I learned about brie wax several years ago with finishing, and this is it. And this is the Tudor brown that I used. I love dark woods, as you can see behind me. And so I just put a light coat of that on there, and I let it sit. Now, it is a stain and wax. So once the wax had dried, I went back over it with a clean rag to give it some shine, as you can see here. And while all that was going on, while it was drying and I was making breakfast, I went ahead and started pinning him. I know there's tutorials on lacing. I'm just personally not a fan of lacing unless it's something small like an ornament. It just doesn't turn out to me, and I'm sure there's some tricks and tips I could learn from others and teach myself in doing that type of finishing. But I'm just not drawn to it. I would rather pin it. So I started and finished pinning him. So he is pinned on a piece of foam core board. And once I got him into the frame, I added some hardware because this particular piece had just a, what do you call it, pressed wood backing, and then it had a stand on it. And I didn't want the stand because she's gonna hang it. So I put it into there, and then I used the double-sided stitcher's tape to go around the edges, and then I placed this paper on the back to close it over. And so there you go. I'm gonna take him, he's called the Bear, this is the Bear, and I'm gonna take him to my daughter tonight. We're meeting up for dinner with her at a local restaurant. It's a really nice restaurant. I've not had a chance to visit there yet and have dinner there. So we're gonna meet her and her husband and celebrate her birthday and try something new. So I'm really looking forward to it. So what else have I got? I did pick up some haul. This is one thing I meant to share with you a video or two ago, but a friend of mine in my local stitch group, her son-in-law makes these, and that particular stitcher and her best friend both had these, and when I asked where she got them, she said her son-in-law made them, so she took orders that day from the rest of us, and this is mine. I really like it, and I plan to use this in August when I start the Bristol sampler with a friend, and because it's just going to be a monochromatic sampler, and I can put those threads, put this to good use with those threads. But I like also that it's numbered. That would be really nice if you're using it for a pattern and you've got multiple colors on it. But I enjoy this. I'm looking forward to using it in August. And I got some haul in the mail, and a couple of these are new patterns. This is My Big Toe, Quoth the Stitcher. I've seen several of you stitch this one up. I'm gonna stick with what it has here on the pattern, and I got a different fabric because the fabric it calls for was not in stock. Hold on, let me look it up and see what it calls for. It calls for, it's a fibers on the whim. Let me tell you, I was trying to keep from taking it out of the packaging, but it's not listed on the back, so it must be listed inside. It calls for 32 count silver fox, but I did find this one. I ordered it off of 123, and this is graceful gray linen. And that is showing almost true to color. It's a little tiny bit darker. And so instead of using a black thread, which this one calls for Fathom, which is DMC 939, I may lighten it up to just a darker gray. But I'm looking forward to stitching that. This one will probably be stitched some point at the end of the year. And then I picked up this one because I'm seasonal stitching this year. This is Grand Old Flag by Heart and Hand. I have really caught on to Heart and Hand this year. I've stitched over the years a few of the designs, but it never fully resonated. Like some of the patterns would catch my eye and most of the others didn't. It's not like that now. I'm really enjoying stitching the Heart and Hand. I love that there's a lot of them are small and you can just pick them up and finish them up in 2 or 3 days and you've got a cute little finish. But this one will be one that I will start and finish after finishing in my father's house. This is the fabric that I picked up for this one. This is just dirty linen. It calls for copper penny hand-dyed linen. And once again, it wasn't listed, so I got this one, and it may be a little too dark. See the difference there, but we know though that those pattern pictures can be deceiving at times. But I think I'm gonna stick with this. And this one I saw on Instagram, and immediately I fell in love with this pattern, and I knew I needed to stitch it. I will probably not actually stitch it until next 4th of July, but this is Jan Hicks Creates E Pluribus Unum. And I'm going to stitch this one on 40 count Legacy Newcastle linen. I do believe this is the called for linen. Again, let me open that up to verify that I'm telling you correctly. Very nice weight paper. I like that in a pattern. Okay, it gives the DMCs as well as overdyed flosses, and they look to be varying of Classic Color Works, Weeks Dye Works, and Gentle Arts. Well, I guess I looked right over it because I do not see it. Oh, it's stitched on 40 count Heartland Picture This Plus, and so I got the Legacy. So mine will be a little different in color, but that's okay. I will probably use the called for DMCs. I'm trying to use what I have in hand as far as threads this year, and that's probably what I'll do. So the other thing I got this week, and I've not tried it out yet, I just got it actually within the past hour at the front door, is the Fold and Go Ot Lamp. And I'm excited because it is battery operated. It comes with its own case. If you watched my recent packing video, I've always worried that when I pack even my small lamp, that being in the trunk of the car or the back seat, that it's gonna get damaged rustling around, or if the bag falls over or the light bulb itself breaks. But this one comes with its own little carrying case. So I'm probably gonna open this up tonight or tomorrow, give it a go, give it a check, and I'll let you know what I think. I'll give you a little review on it. So if you're interested, just leave me a comment below and I will make sure to do a review for all of you. But I'm excited to give it a try because I have a small get-together retreat next month, and I wanted to take it with me, so that's here. And one more thing. I just downloaded this yesterday. The designer actually has a Etsy shop, and it's the Calico Confectionery. And I'm sorry, but I only have black and white. But this is the American sampler, and again, seasonal stitching. 4th of July is coming in less than a month. I went ahead and pulled a piece of fabric from Stash. This is a 40 count. You can see probably that I was stitched a little bit. I tried to mark my fabric scraps with the name and the thread count so that I don't have to do this. I can remember and then just pick it out and go. But I couldn't do that here. So I had to make sure I had enough fabric on the edge. I had to see what the fabric count, and this one is 40 count. I had figured it up for 32, which is what it calls for, and then I could have put it in a standard 8x10 frame. I still can, but I'll have a lot of edge. So we'll see how I finish it up when it goes. This one, along with that heart and hand, will probably be started soon. In fact, I've got a friend that's gonna join me in stitching. Oop, I'm showing you the fabric, that's the piece. Let me show you the threads. There's only 4. This sampler actually reminds me of the more, the older patterns from the 80s, early 90s that were very stylized and uniform. It's not a reproduction sampler, but here are the 4 threads. Aren't they pretty? So I will link all the ones that I have shown you today, all of the pieces that I have shown you as haul, so that if you're interested in having them. I'm funny about listing shops. I don't list a shop unless I am working with one specifically. If the designer has their own shop, I will list the designer's shop, but not show partiality to one online or brick and mortar shop. So just know that. And I will list them below everything that I've shown you here so you can find it. And as far as the next coming week, I'm going to continue to focus on in my father's house. I'm hoping for a finish. And with that finish, I will have a new start on that heart and hand piece that I shared with you earlier. So keep your fingers crossed. No, keep your stitches crossed that I get it finished next week. And until next time, hugs and stitches. Bye-bye.